Clyde in Saskatchewan, Canada writes to me, "Hey Paul." "Hey Clyde. The other day in your video, you were showing off the new Octave recording studio." Yup. Nice digs. Thanks. I have so much fun here. This really keeps me involved. In the video, you mentioned the term tracking, which I hadn't heard before. This, for me, added some small amount of confusion. Could you give me a brief explanation of some of the terms thrown around in the recording process? What is the engineering, the tracking, the mixing, and the mastering or remastering? Thanks for your videos. Well, okay. Sure. We can go through that. Before we got going, and this will probably be a bit of a long video, we are in the process of recording a fabulous new album, and I have always wanted to record a marimba. Look at this beauty. I've just pulled back some of it here. I mean, it has mallets. So the fellow who owns this, Doug, this is an 8-foot, 5-octave marimba made out of rosewood. He was telling me that this lowest one, this piece of rosewood is $400 if you had to replace it. I mean, this is just, it's just beautiful. And there's a Spanish guitarist over here, and we're just having a kick. And right now I'm going to insert a little video that'll show you Doug playing it, and then we'll be right back.
So if you play in between the center node and the edge node, you get what's generally called the warmest sound. If you play right on the edge nodes, that takes a lot of the fundamental out, and you get a thinner, brighter, less raw, less loud tone.
Yeah.
If you play right over the resonators, that's the loudest sound, but the energy you give the bar is used up in volume, so it decays a little bit sooner than if you play in a place where the energy is transmitted by length of ring rather than volume.
Can you also show me, Doug, how you were moving those sticks apart and why?
Well, sure. If you have a second, then you get your index finger out of the way. If you're playing an octave, then you use your index finger to push it out and make up here, I can get up to a tenth because the bars are so much smaller. Down here, it's pretty much an octave.
Yeah.
That's all. So.
And this is how many octaves? 5 octaves?
5-octave marimba, yes.
Wow. And these are all made out of rosewood?
They are. And so this bar right here is worth $400 because rosewood is...
That's the one I tried to get off last night and take down to the pawn shop, but it didn't come off very easily. I was trying to afford dinner.
Yeah. Wow, you have expensive taste in dinner.
It's mostly the alcohol.
Yeah, but that's expensive in several ways.
Yeah. Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Cool, right? I mean, that's pretty cool. Okay, you wanted to know about terminology, and you can see how we've mic'd this. We're doing it straight across. These are Gefell mics, and let's see if I go. Just keep this down. I want to keep it covered because this is a very expensive piece of equipment. 8-foot long, 5-octave. Whew, amazing. Anyway, these are the Neumann U67s. So tracking. Well, we lay down tracks, right? Those are individual channels that we record. So when we're tracking something, that's another word for recording, okay? We're making a recording. We're laying down tracks. It could be a single mono track. It could be a stereo track. Or it could be, in this particular one, we're using about 16 tracks. So each track is represented by a microphone. So this microphone is one track, this microphone's another track, and this one another. So when I record this marimba, we're using 3 tracks. And what we'll do when we mix, and then there's another one, it's a room mic, and that's a stereo mic, and those take up 2 more tracks. So when we record, we're tracking. When we mix, we take those many tracks and we assign them to the left, to the right, to the center, somewhere in between. We assign them a volume level relative to the other recordings, the other tracks, and that's mixing. We're mixing the tracks. We're setting the volume level of each instrument, which has been picked up by this microphone, on a separate track, and as we mix them together, we come up with the whole sound. And it's quite an art. It really is. It's more than just setting things, and it depends what you want. If you listen to something that is highly produced, it can take days and days and days to mix it. You have editing going on, you've got all kinds of stuff, and we don't do a lot of that at Octave Records. Pretty much everything we do is about as natural as it gets. My friend Seth sent me a little plaque that says, "Fix it in pre." And what he means by that is, instead of fixing it in post, which means after you've recorded it, add EQ, add all the crazy stuff and filters and things you can do to a recording, fix it in the first place. Get the microphone set just right. You see how these microphones are set? Well, I did that with a pair of headphones and had Doug over here playing, and I adjusted them to get them the right distance, to get them the right pattern. These mics all have patterns. This is a cardioid pattern, which means it picks up here, but it doesn't pick up here. So nothing comes here and everything comes here. This same one here, and this one happens to be, this is a Neumann, I said U67. So this one can be adjusted for what kind of pattern. It can have an omni pattern, which picks up everything around it, or a cardioid pattern, which picks up just this or just that. Okay? So that we covered tracking, mixing, recording, punching in. There's a term that you don't get to hear that often. When a musician says, "Hey, can I punch that?" What does that mean? Well, let's say that Doug is over here playing his marimbas. He's going on it, right? He dances. I've got some. I'll have to show you some videos of Doug. He's over here dancing. He studied under Gary Burden. I mean, that guy's a world famous, the late Gary Burden. But he played the vibraphone, which is not a marimba, but it's close enough. And I actually don't know the difference between the two. But anyway, shows you what I know. I'm just a nerd engineer. I'm trying to learn. It's funny. Jessica, who is the executive producer at Octave Records, she is a musician, and I'm trying to make her into an engineering nerd. I'm an engineering nerd, and that she's trying to turn into a musician. So, between the two of us and my wife Terry, who has a wonderful ear. Terry's amazing. That's not right. She picks up on that, so she could be a great producer. But between the three of us, we make these wonderful records. And where was I going with that? Oh, a punch-in. So let's say he's playing along and he hits a wrong note, or he skips a beat or something. Well, but the rest of it is a great performance. So what we can do is we can play along. He puts the headphones on, right? Where are the headphones? Well, you know what headphones look like. And he's listening, and then at one point I punch in and start recording, and he starts playing again. And it does this thing called a crossfade, which turns down the playback on one and turns up in a volume ramp, the recording of the next one. And it's seamless. So play, record, and you can add in a bit that fixes something. Or I like the first half, I didn't like the second half. Does that make sense? So that's what's called a punch-in. What else? Those are essentially, the mixes and our mix process that probably drive most people crazy. We mix in the control room, get it sounding as good as we can. The musician likes it. Turn this down. I want more bass. This or that. And it's all just volume controls that are turning things up and down, and in the mix console. And then we go downstairs into the listening lab, and there we do it again. Take notes. I'm actually going to build a mixer down there so that I can actually mix in the listening lab, but that's a whole other thing. So anyway, I've chewed up enough of our time. Hope that helps. Thanks for the question. Talk to you later.